Okay, this briefing's on polymer clay sculpting, and there's a story behind what you see up here. There was actually two of these at one time. The first one was an error on my part, because the first one I spent a lot of time sculpting it, and of course you have to bake clay to get it hardened. And so in baking it, what happened was that I left it in the oven too long and I forgot it. And then all of a sudden smoke was filling the house, and of course Kathy, my wife, she got very angry, and then, well, we didn't call the fire department, but we got the fire put out. So this is the second attempt on it, and this just happens to be a Noah's Ark, and which I don't allow it to go to Sunday school, but I do keep it displayed. It was one of the first things that I did. So next slide, please. What we're going to talk about, this is an introduction to it, is some project ideas, how to garner ideas for polymer clay projects, some of the clay types. We're going to talk about some information needed, which is human, animal type anatomy, and how to make them in proportion to each other. And, we'll talk about ethnicity and gender, and basic clay shapes and armatures, and tools and equipment that are needed. Next slide, please. Okay, project ideas, they can be collected from polymer clay books, which can be obtained at library, or in today's computer society, you can go to the internet and obtain ideas, patterns, that type of thing. And they also have guilds and workshops that you can attend that allow you to get ideas and actually work on clay projects while you're doing that. Next slide, please. Some clay types, mainly for sculpting, is a clay called Cernet, which is made by a German company. It comes in like these 65-gram packages, variety of colors. The main thing for Cernet is it's translucent, which is used for a lot of sculpting, especially human figures, things of that nature. Then you also have Super Sculpting and Pro Sculpt, two other types of clays. A lot of people use it for dolls, and it comes in the variety of pound packages that are listed up here. And you also have a lot of general and specialized clays. And again, the variety of colors, if you don't have a color that you obtain on the market, you can actually mix other colors to make colors. Okay, so next slide. Some additional information you need when you sculpt is a general knowledge of anatomy, human body, proportion, because some of the ones I've done, the head was bigger than the body and it wasn't in proportion, so it doesn't match. And like some members of our audience, head big, things of that nature, so you try to eliminate those possibilities. Information is needed. The relation of body parts to one another, and this is animals or human, either one. You have to look at proportion and anatomy. Next slide. Some of the things that are of interest are ethnicity, like depending on the sculpture, if you're doing humans, there's distinct differences between Asians, Africans, and of course Caucasians. Head shapes are different, and so you watch out for that. You have to go into great detail to get an identical likeness to what you're sculpturing. Next slide. Gender matters. Of course we know male, females are different, especially humans, but so are animals based on coloring. So if you're going to do like an animal or a human, you have to watch out for gender and everything else, and ethnicity. Next slide. Some of the basic clay shapes before you get started are rolling clay in a ball. You can use it for like the head of the creature, whether animal or human. You have to know an egg shape, which is just basically that, is an egg-shaped piece of clay. Ovals can be used for like other body parts. And you can make rods. You actually put your clay on a table or between your hands, and you make an elongated rod to use for like legs, arms, and that type of thing. And there's armature. I just happen to have a picture of an armature. It's like a piece of aluminum foil, wire, that you make the base structure, and then you put the clay on top of it. It saves the clay and it adds strength and stability to the structure. Next slide. Some base equipment you need. You can actually use household items like spoons, forks, knives to gouge the clay or to form it the way you want it. Or you can buy a special set of tools, which are shown on the left up here, to use for like the eye sockets and things like that. The right looks like exactly what it is, a pasta machine. It's used for clay. So you run the clay through it several times to get it pliable, to be able to manipulate it, and then once you've ran it through, and you can combine colors using this pasta machine. Once you do that, it's more pliable and you can form and put it on an armature or anything else you so desire. Next slide. And this is a toaster oven. And that's what you use to harden the clay. Most clays, don't make the mistake I did, like I talked about originally, are run at about 275 degrees for about 30 minutes. But each clay, or type of clay, has specific instructions for it. So you just have to look at the instructions that come along with it. Next slide. These two should look familiar. These are just a couple of sample rosaries that were done, and they came out really good. And then the next one, next slide please, actually shows a frog. It was a sculpture I did, and I gave it to somebody. So a lot of this stuff can be used for gifts. If you're really, really good and you want to do that, you can actually sell it or become more commercialized, but I'd rather use it for gifts, just the satisfaction of giving it to somebody. Next slide. So what we talked about are like the ideas, where you get project ideas, the types of clay, the anatomy, proportion, the ethnicity and gender, the clay types, armatures, tools and equipment that are needed. Next slide. And to make sure everybody has this, my summary, again, the project ideas from books, internet, or guilds, the clay types, or some of the clay types, are Cernit, Super Sculpting, and Pro Sculpt. Again, the human figures, anatomy and proportion must be understood, ethnicity and definitely gender, to be able to be lifelike, and clay shapes, which are ball, egg, oval, and the rod, used to form basic types. Next slide.
What are you up to?
And tools and equipment. Clay shaping tools, pasta machine, and a toaster oven. Next slide. And these are some references that I've used to formulate this. The main person is Donna Cato. She sponsors her own types of clays and equipment and things of that nature. So if you want a copy or you want to look these up, you can have a copy of the references. And that, unless there's any questions, that ends the presentation.